Republicans got absolutely shredded at their own hearing. It backfired in their face in the House of Representatives. I've been covering a lot of these hearings this past week. I want to show you one that's not been getting really any coverage anywhere else. Now, we covered the Kash Patel hearing in the Senate and the House, so I'm not going to cover that again. We covered the big hearing with the whistleblowers from the Trump regime, like the former CDC Director Susan Monterez, Dr. Monterez, who exposed how dangerous the CDC and the Department of Health was. You also had Dr. Alry, the chief medical officer, testifying before the Senate. Remember, I did a video going over that hearing, so I'm not going to cover that one here. I'm going to cover one that, again, did not get a lot of attention in the House Oversight Committee, where the MAGA Republicans once again called Washington, D.C. officials like Mayor Bowser, the Washington, D.C. Attorney General, other council members, because they really don't want to conduct oversight on anything relating to the regime, which they're supposed to do. So they spend all their time attacking Washington, D.C., attacking the mayor, attacking the attorney general, attacking the council members. But Democrats were able to hijack this hearing and really turn it into a hearing about Donald Trump and the Trump regime. So let me show you what went down as Democratic Congress member and our friend Raja Krishnamurthy was there delivering the facts, really taking over this hearing. Let's play this clip.
Attorney General Schwab, according to The Hill, President Trump suggested that, quote, a little fight with the wife shouldn't count in D.C. crime stats. You don't dispute The Hill reported this, right?
I saw that.
But there's nothing little about 12,000 victims of domestic violence in D.C. or nothing little about 50,000 Illinoisans experiencing domestic violence, correct?
No, it's a very serious crime.
There's nothing little about 12,000 children, more than 12,000 children who witnessed domestic violence in Chicago either, right?
It's traumatizing.
It's abhorrent that the president routinely dismisses violence faced by women. And given his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, this attitude, unfortunately, comes as no surprise. Let's be clear. There's nothing little about domestic violence. Not the scale of the problem or the courage of the survivors.
Next, I'll show you Congresswoman Ansari. She had all of the poster boards, the data, the facts ready to go. Let me show you what went down when she was given the time to perform oversight. Let's play it.
No one is fooled as to why suddenly the president of the United States is declaring emergencies in cities across the country and deploying armed troops against American citizens, despite the fact that crime rates, at least in the District of Columbia, are at a 30-year low. This is very obviously a blatant and egregious attempt to redirect attention from a very real and ongoing crime. The crime which is the massive and epic cover-up for Jeffrey Epstein's abuse and that of other rich and powerful men who engaged with and supported him over the course of decades. Why are House Republicans covering for Donald Trump? They're holding this absurd hearing about crime in D.C. to distract the public from the very real national issues at hand. These are the people that Trump and House Republicans are covering for. Instead, they want answers to the really important questions. Questions like, how many trash bags did the National Guard pick up today? Or how many traffic tickets have been given out in D.C. this week? Or how many drunk college students needed to have the National Guard call them Ubers so they could get home? These are the tough questions that House Republicans want answers to. Did House Republicans collude with the White House to change their tune on the Epstein files? And what is Donald Trump so afraid of? Why won't he just release the unredacted Epstein files, which he could do literally at any moment?
Next, let's show you Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, always a superstar. Congresswoman Crockett, let's play it.
If anybody does need to clean up D.C., I would agree it is this man, because he is the one that is causing half the crime that we have. Not only is he participating in the crime, but we know that he instigated the insurrection. And if I did say that I had one issue with the the Biden-Harris administration. It is the fact that they did not move forward and make sure that this man was put where he should have been put. Because the last time I checked as a criminal defense attorney, and Mr. Attorney General, you may have a different experience, but I never had a defendant that had 34 convictions for felonies and did not spend one day in jail. Never in my life. And the last time I checked, the party of law and order is the only one that decided that they would be out of order and decided to nominate someone who was not only indicted, but was actually convicted of multiple felonies. That has never happened in this country. And it is a shame that we are dealing with it now. And now he wants to tell y'all how to do your jobs.
Now, there was an important a moment, this oversight committee as well, where Democratic Congress member Ro Khanna took to the podium and he said, let's be clear. This regime, this Trump regime, has initiated the largest assault on free speech in modern history. Then he goes to subpoena the chairman of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, you know, the guy who made sure that Jimmy Kimmel was fired after getting Stephen Colbert fired. And Brendan Carr, this MAGA extremist who was the author of Project 2025 on this censorship stuff, says he's going for The View next and Jimmy Fallon next. And other comedians, if you do jokes against Donald Trump, you do jokes against the regime, Brendan Carr's coming after you. And Congressmember Ro Khanna says, well, we're subpoenaing Brendan Carr. Let's get him to talk about what the hell happened with Kimmel, because he seems to think it's okay to share memes of the Office characters raising the roof or Jack Nicholson laughing when people were saying, man, you're just doing the Project 2025 playbook, aren't you? So Ro Khanna's like, by the way, I don't care what political party you are watching this, but don't you think that the chairman of the FCC who's doing the memes and mocking the fact that comedians are getting fired based on his coercion, intimidation, and threats, don't you think this guy should testify before us? Right? Don't you think that should be a bipartisan view? So does Ro Khanna. And Ro Khanna's worked with Republicans before in a lot of things. So here's Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna saying, let's bring him before us. And then I'm going to show you MAGA Republicans go, nope, do not bring him because Jimmy Kimmel is the bad guy and Jimmy Kimmel's a liar and Jimmy Kimmel deserved to be fired. As a comedian, come on, guys and gals. Come on, MAGA, you look so stupid. Here, play this clip of Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna.
Mr. Chairman, this administration has initiated the largest assault on the First Amendment and free speech in modern history. They're making comedy illegal. Brendan Carr pressured ABC to cancel Jimmy Kimmel, and Disney cancels Jimmy Kimmel. This canceling from an administration that lectured us about cancel culture. That's why today I'm introducing a motion to subpoena Brendan Carr, to bring him in front of this committee, to stop the intimidation of private businesses and to stand up for the First Amendment. Now, it's not just Brendan Carr. Attorney General Pram Bondi is prosecuting hate speech, even though hate speech is constitutionally protected. And even though we've had so many lectures from my friends on the other side of the aisle not to prosecute hate speech. And then what about our vice president? The champion of free speech, as he told us during the campaign. The vice president is telling Americans to snitch on fellow Americans who have offensive posts and to call their employers so they can be fired. And the vice president is threatening to prosecute political organizations that he disagrees with. Look, we are Article 1 of the Constitution, not foot lackeys for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. It is time that we stand up for our constitutional role to defend the freedoms of Americans. People are tired of us just giving our power to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. We have an obligation to our Constitution, not to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance as they ride roughshod over the First Amendment. So in the name of all those who are being censored in Washington, D.C. and around the country, in the name of all those who are being intimidated in Washington, D.C. and around the country. In the name of Americans, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats who believe in the First Amendment and free speech, I motion today to subpoena Brendan Carr and to have him explain to the American people why he's bullying private individuals and private businesses.
Okay, now going to the "you look so stupid." Here's MAGA Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's like, Democrats want to subpoena the FCC chair, Brendan Carr, because they're upset that their actions finally have consequences. Jimmy Kimmel lied about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Let's be clear. The assassin was not MAGA. He was tied up in furry. He was a furry trans. He was tied up in furry trans circles. The hell are you talking about? This isn't cancel culture. This is consequence culture. Fire emoji. No, it's quite literally cancel culture from the federal government infringing on First Amendment rights. I don't need to replay what Jimmy Kimmel said. You all know what Jimmy Kimmel said. He said it on Monday. He's like, over the weekend, MAGA was trying desperately to make sure that people didn't think that this kid had any connections to MAGA, the killer. And then here's what Donald Trump said about his former friend and his mourning of Charlie Kirk. And then it's Donald Trump saying, oh, do you see the ballroom I'm building? Look how expensive the ballroom. Look, it's a beautiful ballroom. And then Jimmy Kimmel's like, this is how 4-year-olds mourn their dead fish. This is not how adults mourn their friends. That was the whole thing that Kimmel said. And then when Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, Kimmel posted after the death of Charlie Kirk, as did we and Democrats, look, we condemn political violence. We need to stop we need to stop this stuff. This needs to come to an end. Like Kimmel was very, is saying all the things that should have been said right there. But then he did that monologue, which wasn't bad at all. He didn't go and talk about what he could have, that Charlie Kirk has said anti-black, anti-Asian, anti-women, anti-gay, anti-trans. He didn't go into all anti-civil rights. He didn't say that. But here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Again, a furry trans dude. This guy came from a MAGA Republican family, was not a political person at all, was not like a liberal, was not political. Tyler Robinson, he was a white 22-year-old guy who went down this rabbit hole that we see very frequently amongst these gun-toting family white 22-year-old shooters. It's what we see frequently. Just what it is. Here, play this clip.
I would like to move to table the motion to subpoena. Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he lied on ABC about the identity of the man that Tyler Robinson that murdered, assassinated, martyred Charlie Kirk. He lied and said he was MAGA. Tyler Robinson was not MAGA. Not one bit. He was part of Antifa. He was in a relationship. He was in a relationship with someone who identified as furry and trans. And this is an absurd lie. And so I moved to table the motion to subpoena.
Now, give a shout out to the new Democratic Congress member, James Walkinshaw. This was his first oversight hearing, and he's great. Welcome to the Oversight Committee, James. Congressmember Walkinshaw, play this clip.
American people are facing serious challenges. Our economy is faltering. Inflation is rising. Tariffs are driving up prices and job growth is stagnant. And unless this Congress acts, tax credits that help working families afford health care will soon expire. In my district and the districts of everyone here today, tens of thousands of people will see their health care costs skyrocket. And meanwhile, as has been mentioned, President Trump continues to cover up the Epstein files, and a government shutdown is looming. In the face of all of this, how does the majority choose to spend its time? By interfering in DC's local government and further disenfranchising 700,000 Americans.
A powerful moment by Congresswoman Ansari here. Play this clip.
Donald Trump wants so badly for the Epstein story to go away. Trump sued the Wall Street Journal for $10 billion for reporting about this letter. Not surprising, as we are seeing what's happening now with the alarming authoritarian attacks on the free press. This was one of many examples, but he claimed this letter didn't exist. Here it is. This grotesque, disgusting, misogynistic letter, which Donald Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein. He probably laughed. He probably thought this was hilarious. Laughing about the abuse of literally thousands of underage girls at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and his powerful rich friends. And then lying about it repeatedly to this day. Why? Why lie about it? Donald Trump now claims this isn't his handwriting, which is a comical excuse, and House Republicans are covering for him. Why are House Republicans covering for Donald Trump? They're holding this absurd hearing about crime in DC to distract the public from the very real national issues at hand. These are the people that Trump and House Republicans are covering for. Trump's Department of Justice moved Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's right-hand accomplice in the sexual abuse of underage girls, to a minimum security prison, all to buy her silence. You know, Donald Trump sent his former personal defense attorney, who's now the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, to sit down with Ghislaine Maxwell and to transcribe her remarks word for word, releasing this liar's version of the truth to the world. Why would the Trump Department of Justice endorse a convicted liar, Ghislaine Maxwell's version of the truth? Many of us here in this room actually sat with the victims, the survivors of Epstein, and they were understandably shaken and livid by the fact that a convicted child sex abuser and trafficker was given such a massive platform to continue to spread her lies. Donald Trump did that. Trump's DOJ did that. When FBI Director Kash Patel was asked about it in the Senate, he said he had no idea why she was moved to a minimum security prison. Don't House Republicans have any interest in investigating that? No? They don't care? Instead, they want answers to the really important questions. Questions like, how many trash bags did the National Guard pick up today? Or how many traffic tickets have been given out in DC this week? Or how many drunk college students needed to have the National Guard call them Ubers so they could get home? These are the tough questions that House Republicans want answers to. So let's just be very clear. The biggest criminal in Washington, D.C., the criminal who was besties with Jeffrey Epstein and was already found liable of sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll, the criminal who should be invested not only for those crimes, but now this massive cover-up, is Donald John Trump. What I want to know is who instructed the Bureau of Prisons to move Ghislaine Maxwell? What did the Trump administration promise her to remain silent? Why is FBI Director Patel claiming that no other men victimize underage girls and women through the sex trafficking operation organized by Epstein and Maxwell, which is obviously false, and we heard as much from the women? Did House Republicans collude with the White House to change their tune on the Epstein files? And what is Donald Trump so afraid of? Why won't he just release the unredacted Epstein files, which he could do literally at any moment? Unfortunately, we will have to continue to wait to get these answers. Also, Republicans can find out how many stray cats need to be dealt with on the streets of Washington, D.C.
And a powerful moment by Congressmember Garcia here. Play this clip.
And right now, since we're talking about crime and corruption in D.C., as we speak, Trump is leading a White House cover-up of the Epstein files. Now, just yesterday, Trump's FBI director falsely claimed that he could not release the files, which we know is false. And let's review the facts. Epstein told the reporter that Trump was his closest friend for 10 years. One survivor also said that Epstein's biggest brag was he was very good friends with Donald Trump. In fact, there was an 8x10 picture framed of Trump on his desk. We know the two are very close. Just last week, our committee released the birthday note that Trump personally wrote to Epstein. It's right here. The note said, by the way, and I'll read it, "May every day be another wonderful secret." That's a disgusting message to send to a sex trafficker. Now, the cover-up of this note might be just as bad as the crime, since we're talking about crime in Washington, D.C. today. Trump filed a $10 billion lawsuit to punish the Wall Street Journal for reporting on the birthday book, which he claimed didn't exist. Now, of course, we've verified that to the world. Now, experts have looked at this. Of course, this is Donald Trump's signature. It certainly looks like the signature to me. At the same time, his administration is cutting deals with a criminal, Ghislaine Maxwell. We know who she is exactly. She's a monster who participated in crimes against up to over possibly 1,000 women. Now, Trump and our Attorney General have not turned over the full Epstein files to our committee, despite a bipartisan subpoena signed by our chairman and this committee. If we want to get tough on crime, if we want to talk about crime in D.C., we need to stand up to where the crime and corruption is happening, and that is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and hold Donald Trump accountable for his record and his actions. It's time for the House majority and Republicans to stand up for the Constitution and take on the biggest crime happening in this country.
And then Marjorie Taylor Greene, again, just so warped. This is her trying to cross-examine the Washington, D.C. officials, Mayor Bowser, the D.C. Attorney General. You hate police? You hate police? You hate them? Dude, shut up. Just shut up. Be normal. Be normal. Here, play this clip.
Mayor Bowser, do you prioritize criminals or the victims?
I prioritize law-abiding D.C. residents, visitors, and workers.
So that would be law-abiding citizens and victims. Do you support the police, Mayor Bowser?
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson, do you prioritize criminals or victims of criminals?
I believe in swift and certain justice. And
no, I asked you either one. Victims of criminals, of crime, or the criminals themselves. Which one do you prioritize?
As I understand the question, victims.
Victims. Do you support the police, Mr. Mendelson?
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Schwab, I'll ask you the same questions.
Unfortunately, hurt people. So sometimes victims are victims one day and
so
our
you
perpetrators
prioritize the criminals, is that what you're saying, over victims of crime?
I prioritize making up my city as safe as it can possibly
I'll take that as criminals. Do you support police, Mr. Schwab?
Of course, we work very closely with MPD every day.
Mr. Jackson, the same questions for you.
Definitely prioritize victims. And I stand with the 24 states that are suing the Trump administration for withholding $1 billion in victim service funds.
So you're against cleaning up crime in D.C. Thank you for that.
Shout out to Democratic Congresswoman Shontel Brown. Let's play it.
Now, let me be clear. I care deeply about public safety in my district, in every district across America. Every person deserves to feel safe in their neighborhood, at their job, and their school. And if I may, there is some good news. Violent crime has been consistently decreasing across America. And yes, we have more work to do, but we also know what works to keep it that way. So if you are really serious about public safety, let's increase funding for violence prevention programs. Let's pass common sense gun safety bills. And let's provide additional federal resources to our local partners to recruit and train local law enforcement. But what has this administration done instead? Rolled back gun safety reforms, gutted DOJ programs tasked with addressing violent crime, and blocked funding to local law enforcement and community violence prevention agencies like the one you served, Mr. Jackson. Earlier this year, Cleveland Peacemakers Alliance, a local violence prevention organization, had its community violence prevention grant funding frozen by this administration.
And here's Democratic Congress member Sue Mayim. Play it.
I had one person tell me that their kids play soccer on the weekends, and they had National Guardsmen at their soccer practice just hanging out, and the kids got scared, right? And I think a better solution would be to send those folks, those National Guardsmen from Louisiana and Mississippi home, And instead, why don't we fully fund DC's crime prevention programs and its budget instead, and actually move forward with these programs that have been working because crime was going down. And then my constituents can come and work in DC, make that long commute that I make every morning, and we can actually get to work and not be fearing that at every street corner we might get harassed. One more constituent said that they worked in DC for over 30 years and still go frequently. He never felt unsafe until now. And it is a dangerous power play this administration is doing. And these federal forces are not concentrating on federal issues of protecting our security. What I think we should be doing is finding people who want to join the police, who can actually stay in our communities long-term and actually fix the problem long-term instead of this short-term photo op that this administration is putting forward.
There you have it, folks. I wanted to show you that hearing because you're not really going to see that hearing elsewhere, are you? That's why we need to build the MeidasTouch network bigger. I need to show you these hearings. I need to show you what's up. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thank you for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.